Some might question whether hunting wild hogs is the right thing to do. From the outside, it may seem harsh, even brutal. But out here, standing beside the farmers who live on the edge of this crisis every single day, you begin to understand the desperation that drives their choices. These aren't people who hunt for sport. They don't take joy in pulling the trigger. They're not chasing trophies, they're trying to survive. Season after season, they watch their crops, the very lifeblood of their families, get ripped apart overnight by cunning, relentless creatures. Fences are no match. Alarms don't stop them. Even traditional traps sometimes fail, because these hogs aren't just wild, they're smart. They learn, they adapt, and they keep coming back. So the farmers fight back the only way they can. They build stronger traps. They set up night vision cameras. They team up with hunters and wildlife officials. Some even learn to use drones, not because they want to, but because they have no other choice. Every option, every tool, every long night spent awake, it all comes from the same place. A deep, instinctive need to protect what little they have left, to shield their children's future, to hold on to a way of life that's been passed down through generations. And when you look into their tired eyes, when you stand beside them in a field littered with uprooted crops and hoofprints, the question changes. It's no longer about whether hunting wild hogs is right. It becomes, what else can they do? In this fight, morality meets reality in the dust and dirt of rural America. And it's only here shoulder to shoulder with the ones living through it that you begin to see the full picture. This isn't about vengeance. It's about survival. And sometimes that means making hard choices for the land, for the future, and for the right to sleep at night without fear. In many parts of Asia, wild boars are considered a species worthy of protection. In countries like Japan, South Korea, and regions of Southeast Asia, these animals are often seen as part of the natural heritage, sometimes even revered in folklore, and in several areas, they're shielded by strict conservation laws. In national parks, they roam freely, monitored, and preserved as part of a delicate ecosystem. Governments invest resources into maintaining their populations, educating the public, and even issuing penalties for harming them. To many in those regions, the wild boar is a symbol of wilderness, a rare, resilient creature to be respected rather than feared. But halfway across the world, in the United States and parts of Europe, that image could not be more different. Here, wild hogs are not a treasured relic of the past. They are an invasive force, exploding in number and spreading faster than most authorities can control. In the US alone, over 6 million feral swine now roam more than 40 states, damaging an estimated $2.5 billion worth of crops and property every year. Far from being preserved, they are actively hunted, trapped, and culled in massive operations involving landowners, wildlife agencies, and even aerial snipers. In places like Texas, it is not only legal but encouraged to hunt wild hogs year-round, day or night without limit. The contrast is striking. What one country views as rare and sacred, another sees as dangerous and destructive. But the difference lies not in the nature of the animal, but in the context of its presence. In Asia, wild boars live in balance with native forests and predators. In the US, their presence is a result of crossbreeding, human error, and unchecked expansion, turning them into a plague. Here, they don't just compete with native species, they overpower them. They don't merely live in the wild, they invade suburbs, destroy livelihoods, and upend ecosystems. And so, while some countries protect the wild boar as a symbol of nature's resilience, others battle it as an emblem of nature's fury gone unchecked. To truly understand how wild hogs came to overrun vast regions of the United States, we have to dig into the history, the mistakes that paved the way. The wild hog problem in America didn't happen overnight. In fact, it started centuries ago when early European settlers brought domestic pigs with them for food. Some escaped, adapted, and began to breed in the wild. But the real turning point came in the early 20th century, when Eurasian wild boars were intentionally imported and released in various states for sport hunting. The idea was simple: create a thrilling new game species for wealthy hunters to pursue. But what wasn't considered or perhaps underestimated was how quickly these boars would breed and how well they would adapt to American landscapes. When those Eurasian boars interbred with feral domestic pigs, a new hybrid emerged, larger, smarter, faster, and even more destructive. These super pigs didn't need pristine wilderness to survive. They thrived in swamps, forests, farmland, and even near cities. And they could reproduce at an alarming rate, so often having 2 litters a year, with up to a dozen piglets each time. With few natural predators and plenty of food and space, their numbers exploded. What made matters worse was a lack of early intervention. For years, the wild hog problem was viewed as a local nuisance rather than a national crisis. By the time wildlife authorities began to coordinate control efforts, the hogs had already spread across the South and into the Midwest and West. Their intelligence made trapping difficult. Their nocturnal habits made them hard to hunt, and their adaptability made nearly every conventional method of population control less effective than hoped. Today, the feral hog invasion is considered one of the most costly and complex wildlife management challenges in North America. And it all started with a few pigs, a bit of carelessness, and a country unprepared for just how fast nature can spiral out of control when given the chance. Although we didn't wipe out every last wild hog in today's hunt, we ended the day with a deep sense of purpose and even a touch of joy. The scale of the problem is massive, and we knew from the start that a single outing wouldn't solve it all. These animals are fast, cunning, and spread far and wide across the landscape. But that didn't stop us. Today wasn't about winning the war, it was about winning one battle at a time. And in the fields we walked, among the farmers we stood beside, we could see the difference. Crops that might have been destroyed tonight are still standing. Fences that could have been torn apart are intact. And families who had grown used to sleepless nights, worrying about the sound of rooting and grunting just beyond their homes tonight, they'll rest a little easier. What we did today matters. It's easy to get discouraged when the threat is so large and relentless, but every sounder pushed back, every hog removed, is one less that will trample a crop or ruin a season's work. And sometimes that's enough. There's something rewarding in knowing you stood between chaos and someone's livelihood even just for a night. The handshakes, the nods of quiet thanks from farmers, the shared silence as the last rays of sunlight fade over a calmer field, those are the moments that stick with us. We'll be back. The fight isn't over, and neither is our commitment. But for now, we pack up our gear with a quiet sense of satisfaction. We didn't finish the job, but we helped. And in this fight, even small victories count. We understand that what we do doesn't sit well with everyone. For many people, especially animal lovers, the idea of hunting wild animals is upsetting, even offensive. The sight of a rifle, the sound of a shot, the image of a fallen creaturette can all feel deeply wrong, even cruel. And truthfully, we don't expect applause. We know that to those who view wildlife through a lens of protection and compassion, our work might seem harsh or even heartless. But for those of us out here on the front lines of an ecological crisis, the reality is more complicated. We don't hunt because we enjoy killing. We hunt because balance demands it. Feral hogs are not part of the natural ecosystem in North America. They're an invasive species introduced by humans that now threatens the very fabric of both nature and agriculture. They uproot native plants, drive out indigenous wildlife, erode soil, contaminate water sources, and destroy the hard-earned crops that feed entire communities. Their population explodes unchecked, with no natural predators to keep them in balance. If left alone, they don't simply coexist, they dominate. So we step in not with hate, but with duty. Because protecting nature sometimes means making difficult choices. Sometimes it means removing one species to preserve the survival of many others. Sometimes it means upsetting the ideal picture of wilderness in order to defend the real one that's under siege. And above all, it means protecting the lives and livelihoods of people who depend on the land to survive, families who work it, animals who live on it, ecosystems that depend on harmony. We don't ask for celebration, but we do ask for understanding. This isn't cruelty, it's responsibility. And if doing this means a child grows up with a harvest to eat, a farmer sleeps without fear, or a forest breathes a little easier, then yes, we'll keep going. Even if it makes some people uncomfortable, because the balance of nature and humanity is worth protecting, no matter how hard the task.